Welcome back. Today I have out a brand new rifle I just got. This is a 6.5 Creedmoor model 110 by Savage in their tactical line. What I have set up here is my Burris 5x15 VX XTR2, I should say. And that is the, as I get nailed by a leaf, that is a 34mm tube, 50mm lens. This actually features the SCAR MOA reticle with MOA adjustments for both elevation and windage. Obviously, they are exposed target style knobs with indicators here, a zero stop to return to zero. I have it set up with EGW Keystone rings. Now, these are 34mm rings in a medium height, and I do not like how high up they sat. I did not find any low rings that they offer. They were all out of stock. So when I actually do any shooting with this, I will have these rings replaced with a set of Warren low 34mm rings I found. So they are coming. I will be installing those later to get it a little bit lower bore access for the optic. I'm not a huge fan of having to have a cheek riser from what the factory standard is here, and I'll have to have one raised way up in order to get a proper alignment. So I will say, when you're ordering rings, definitely pay close attention to what the actual size is from the center point of the screw here up to where these rings meet. These were a 1.25 roughly height, where most of your lows are about an inch or a little under. So, and that's definitely got quite a bit of a gap there between the barrel and the bottom of the objective lens. Now, going over more of this rifle, it will have the AccuStock on it, so it will have a full aluminum bedding block in there that runs all the way out to the double sling studs in the front, all the way back to completely go around the action here where your two mounting screws to hold the action into the stock. Those will go up into the aluminum block to hold everything together. You have an adjustable cheek piece here that has three different heights of cheek pieces you can put on the rifle, and of course it's got the spacer system to increase and decrease the length of pull. Nice squishy recoil pad on it to help absorb the recoil, but it is a 6.5 Creedmoor, so it should not have that much recoil to begin with. This has got a medium heavy contour barrel on it and a 5/8 by 24 thread pitch threaded muzzle with a thread protector on there. Coming back, this rifle does use the AICS or the Magpul magazine system here. It comes with the 10-round magazine. I actually additionally have a 5-rounder that by Magpul. I've got 3 of these, and then I got 3 5-rounders by, see if that locks in there. Yep. And these are by Amend 2. Now, the interesting things with the Magpul magazines is they have a stop in the follower that you can actually cut off to increase the 5-round magazine to a 6-rounder and the 10-rounder to a 12-rounder. We'll probably be doing that so that way I can gain just another round here. I will be using the 6.5 Creedmoor here for whitetail hunting for like the doe seasons, the doe only. I would like to do some bullet testing on that and actually see how well the 6.5 does perform, since a lot of what you're going to see online is they say it's comparable to a 308 or will actually outperform it past 300 yards. That is what all the energy tables and ballistic velocities, all that stuff is going to say, but I mean, numbers are one thing. I want to see what it'll actually do. I'm going to use a lot of milk jugs with my slime consistent mixture in them to see what they actually have for any kind of expansion. So I will be doing some more testing with that once I find ammunition. Fun fact, I went to my local Farm and Fleet, which is one of my kind of all-around sporting goods slash farm goods slash pretty much anything you need store. And they had one type of 6.5 Creedmoor that they stocked, which was out of stock, of course. And you could find 3006 in multiple different varieties, 308 in multiple different varieties, 243. They had several varieties of 7mm 08. I mean, they had just about every other common cartridge that you could possibly find a Savage rifle in, except for like the 6.5 Creedmoor. So I'm beginning to think that like a lot of your retailers and stuff, the severe amount of hype around the 6.5 Creedmoor might still be kind of like a mixed like opinion on people, so that is why I got one of these to test against it. Now I will be receiving in the exact same rifle here in a 308, so I will be able to do side-by-side comparisons using the exact same scope going between both rifles and actually see, using my slow motion camera here, what our recoil looks like between the two cartridges, being that the guns are going to be almost identical for weight, size, dimensions, everything. The only thing that's going to differ in them is the 308 will have a BA contour barrel, which will be a full bull barrel, which will be just a little bit more meat on it than what this does, but not much. So it'll be interesting to see between those two which one actually is going to be the lower recoil rifle. See how they actually do perform at 200 and maybe even 300 yards if I feel like trying to shoot something that far, a milk jug sized target. So other than that, going back from there, we talked about the magazine. Now the other thing I did see on some reviews online was they talked about you have your bolt release up here. I'll take the magazine out. And that's the other thing I should mention, this massive bolt knob here. That's just awesome, that tactical knurled bolt knob. Very easy to grab onto and articulate. Now to remove it, you got to pull the trigger back, which actually I'll have to have it in the fire position. Pull your trigger back all the way in order to push this knob down, well, that lever, and that will remove your bolt. Now be careful with Savage bolts here. You see this little round peg? If this gets knocked up here, that's your striker. You have to manually have something hard to push that against as you're pushing and twist that bolt back in order to get this to go back in the proper position. So that way you can articulate your bolt down. If that is flipped up in the upward position, you won't be able to operate your bolt and your bolt won't close. So if you're having issues getting your bolt to close, look at this little round peg here. That's one of your controls for the striker. Now the other model that they have, well, not so much as model, this is a 110 Predator by Savage. This is the exact same action and barrel contour as what the Tactical has, with one exception. With these detachable magazines, they're actually located up here, and then your bolt release is located down here in front of the magazine. And the reason I brought my Predator out is to show you that with this magazine release here, that's why they end up not putting that that bolt release. You won't have enough. If you pull your magazine out, that magazine release is going to impact the front of your trigger guard. And even with a magazine in it, I don't think you're going to have the clearance in order to get anything in here, let alone a finger, in order to push that and remove the bolt. I think that is why Savage went back to the slab side action for this one, so they can use their bolt release on the original style Savage actions. Of course, this does have an accu trigger, but this has a lighter accu trigger in it than what most of your hunting rifles are going to have for Savage for their accu trigger. I think this one came preset at either 1.5 or 2.5 pounds. It is a light trigger just from doing some dry firing with it, and it will be the same as what the Predator model is going to have. The only other difference is your Predator model has basically the exact same AccuStock style stock on it, where the Tactical model has what's called the law enforcement beaver tail. So you're going to have a wider forend on it with the double studs, which when laying in bags, I mean, it's a lot more sturdy when you have any kind of like front rifle bags, or if you're just using a bag system in general. The only downside is I found on this law enforcement beaver tail is the hog saddle that I have on my my pig tripod from Shadow Tech. Because of how wide this thing is and the weird dimensions of it, it does not want to sit in that saddle at all when I go to crank it down. So I don't know if I'm going to keep this as pretty much just something shooting off of a bipod for any kind of hunting, or if I can find some kind of a system to rig up on the bottom of this stock in order to mount it into like an Arca rail. So I guess we'll find out later what I do with that. Otherwise, that's pretty much the 110 Tactical here. Hopefully by the time I get a video together to do some shooting with it, I'll have my 308 and I'll be able to do a comparison. I might actually do a comparison too, because I got a lot of cobwebs in that thing. The Predator here is a 260 Remington, which is basically a 308 cartridge necked down to a 6.5 diameter. Now it would be interesting to see what our recoil differences are going to be between my my Predator and this 6.5 Creedmoor, with them being two different 6.5 cartridges in roughly the same ballistic size. You're looking at a Creedmoor is a little bit slower than what a 260 is, but It would be interesting to see if you see any difference in recoil, because the Creedmoor is supposed to be a more efficient cartridge, which will burn powder better than what like your 308 and 260 or anything built off that 308 cartridge will. So I guess we will find out if that has any translation into recoil when shooting. So that's pretty much going to be it for this video. I'm not going to do any shooting with it since, as I mentioned, I have not gotten any ammunition. Probably what I'm going to do is order some stuff from PSA and get some AAC ammo for it, and continue to do more AAC ammo testing with this, and probably get some Hornady and Federal hunting rounds as well for it. Do a little bit of testing with those with milk jugs, and more than likely use those for hunting this year. Guess stick around and we'll find out what happens in the next video.